Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of, you guessed it, This Week in History. I'm Alexandra Schneider. Thank you so much for joining me. This week in 1904, Lake Forest policeman Gordon executed a thoroughly successful weekend crusade against speedy drivers. Several assistants were posted at various points on the roads leading into and out of town, armed only with a stopwatch and a pre-measured distance to determine the speed of vehicles. Mad props to their math teachers. 25% of Saturday's drivers were arrested, which admittedly sounds more impressive than it is when you learn that there were only 8 cars going into and out of Lake Forest that day. However, on Sunday, 15 drivers were arrested. Sunday drivers, am I right? 2 of these drivers put up a little bit of resistance. The first, a Mr. Cornish of Lake Bluff, decided that instead of being given a speeding ticket, he would instead attempt to plow over the officer who had caught him. The officer was fine, though Cornish did escape. Obviously, a warrant was put out for his arrest with a much higher charge attached to it. The second arrest was for a Mr. Gray, who was apprehended speeding on his way out of town in the morning, failed to learn his lesson after being released, and was caught again on his way home. In his frustration, Mr. Gray took a slug at the officer, though he was promptly overpowered. And in case you're wondering what the speed was that these individuals broke, it was a whopping 8 miles per hour. And in 1920, Lucius J.M. Mayman, a former resident of Highwood and a well-known Lake County figure, was appointed by President Wilson as the district judge of the Virgin Islands. This was the first time a judge had been appointed to the islands since they were purchased in 1917 by the U.S. for $25 million. Judge Mayman, who spent more than 25 years as a member of the Chicago Bar Association, voiced plans to fortify the islands and make them, quote, the Malta of the Western Hemisphere, end quote. The Virgin Islands, formerly the Danish West Indies, are located approximately 60 miles east of Puerto Rico, which had become a U.S. territory nearly 2 decades earlier. And finally, in 1926, the second volume of the University of Chicago Biographical Studies series was published, recording details of the lives of numerous local men of note, but only one woman, Lake Forest's Helen Culver. Helen Culver lived an extraordinary life, the goal of which she once said, quote, was to be the means of making lives more sound and wholesome, end quote. Throughout her many years, she was a school teacher, she was a Civil War nurse, and a real estate business partner with her cousin Charles Hull, who sought to assist working-class families to become homeowners. She was the first female notary public in the state of Illinois, and later inherited Hull's firm and fortune, which she turned towards philanthropic action. The donation of her home led to the foundation of Hull House by Jane Addams and Ellen Gates Starr, and a financial contribution to the University of Chicago allowed for the construction of brand new biological research facilities. In her later years, with the knowledge that she was losing her sight, she memorized all of her favorite poems, and when she later went completely blind, she still managed to knit more stockings for soldiers during World War I than any other woman war worker in Lake Forest. The publication of her biography came out the year after her death in 1925, when she passed away at the age of 93 years old. And there you have it. That's This Week in History. Thank you so much for joining me, and be sure to check out the History Center website for more great content.